Right, what's happened today? Well, there was a lot of people outside the Palace of Westminster calling for a ceasefire in Gaza because the SNP had put forward an opposition motion calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Why hasn't the British government actually has not the power to implement a ceasefire in Gaza? What's the point? Why haven't we had a? Why hasn't there been a reaction calling for a ceasefire in Ukraine, or a ceasefire in Eritrea, or a ceasefire in Nagorno-Karabakh, or a ceasefire in southern Sudan, or well, there's actually at least 110 armed conflicts in the world taking place at the time, but there seems to be one which people are only interested in. So what's happened? So the SNP put forward a motion calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, even though the Parliament, British government on its own, is unable to implement a ceasefire in Gaza. As the Conservatives were going to put forward an amendment to the motion stating certain conditions for a ceasefire. So what happened then? Well, the Labour Party decided to go to the Speaker and ask for another amendment to the motion, and the Labour Party's amendment was going to go through first, or was it actually going to be the actual vote? Penny Mordaunt said that it was against convention, as did a member of the SNP. It ended up being such a mess that both the Conservative MPs and the SNP MPs walked out. Sometime later, the Speaker, because it was the Deputy Speaker actually doing the thing, he wasn't there to answer the questions, came along and apologised for the pig's ear he had made of the day and the proceedings of it. Now, basically, Penny Mordaunt pointed it out, actually. If the government of the day loses on a foreign policy motion, there has to be an immediate general election. So this is actually what the Labour Party, remember that the Speaker is a member of the Labour Party, this is what they were after. So basically, it wasn't actually about what's happening in Gaza. It was for domestic political gain on their behalf. So that's what that was actually about. The whole thing was a mess, and so no vote has taken place. Then, obviously, the people outside Parliament calling for a ceasefire, all the Islamists, extreme left, SSWP, all them lot, were most upset that the vote didn't take place, and they're a bit annoyed. And some of them were getting a bit violent and stuff, and that is about it. But it's quite simple. Everybody wants a ceasefire. We all want a ceasefire. We do not like death and destruction. Any decent person doesn't. But see, the thing is, those who are on the Palestinian side in this country, or at least the majority, so it looks like, really weren't that bothered about Hamas murdering a few thousand Israeli civilians in October last year. But they're concerned about the death of Palestinian civilians in Gaza. The thing is, anybody who knows anything about the situation over there would actually understand that whatever Hamas did, and it was atrocious. It was the biggest atrocity that I can remember that they did. And if it was just a bus bombing in Tel Aviv, Netanyahu would have reacted the same way. We all knew exactly how Netanyahu was going to react. So basically, just slagging off Israel, and basically there's a lot of Israelis who do not like the way Netanyahu is handling this. They're worried. They have relatives who are hostages in Gaza, remember. I've lost my phone. They do not like how it is being handled. The thing, but you see, we need the removal of both Hamas and Netanyahu. We need a situation, we need a proper ceasefire, we need a solution where Gaza isn't bombed the hell out of like it is being at the moment ever again, and because Hamas would not be able to bomb the hell out and kill Israelis ever again. That is the thing. The removal of both Hamas and Netanyahu is what is required. That would bring about a ceasefire. At the moment, it is people who are ideologically deranged. Most Israelis are not ideologically deranged, and most Palestinians are not ideologically deranged. But Hamas are ideologically deranged, and Netanyahu and those around him are ideologically deranged. So we need the removal of the Hamas government in Gaza, and also the Israelis need to vote so that Likud are no longer the leading party in Israel. Then we can actually start negotiating peace. Or they can. But there is absolutely, what was the point of today's? Well, as I said, we are not in a position to implement a ceasefire. You can't just tell a foreign leader or a foreign government to do something. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, we could actually do it in Ukraine, Nagorno-Karabakh, Eritrea, Southern Sudan. I mean, as I said, there's at least 110 wars around the world to pick from. So why would our parliament concentrate on voting on a ceasefire in just one? More to the point, why was our parliament wasting its time on voting on something it cannot implement, instead of voting on things that would be for the betterment of Britain and its people? Well, it's crazy. So basically, it was crazy from the beginning, and what happened today just added to the craziness, and it ended up with a bit of aggro outside, where the presenter of GB News got an egg hussed at him, and somebody went to attack Myers Housley. But the whole thing was absolutely ridiculous.